And I'll jump in and say, when we built Mobile Echo, we were looking to have somebody manage us, right? Where is the server? You can't ask the user to type in an IP address of the server, right? It's not going to work. And that's one reason why Dropbox is so successful, because you don't have to do any of that. There's no API for that on iOS, so we had to do it ourselves, which is was a hassle, and hopefully now it's a competitive differentiator. Was that both your questions?
Just one question. The other question is, going back a little bit, early days of enterprise, it was definitely local area network providing the information. Then the internet came on and everyone wanted to be able to access it from remote locations. Now we have these mobile devices that everyone expects to be able to do it anywhere, but there's still a success to having access to a server only over a local area network. You have the higher speed, the security. Do you see that, or is it everyone strictly talking going over the internet? Do they want to have solutions that are strictly for inside a building, high speed?
What we're seeing is they want it all. So, and I say it somewhat flippantly, but it is depending on what the app is and what they're trying to do, maybe I want to restrict my app by time of day, maybe I want to restrict it by geolocation, maybe I want to say, when this mission critical app is running, I don't want anything else running on the device because it's sensitive. I want to restrict, cut and paste from this app to that app, right? Because again, you're getting into now data security, data leakage, and how do I allow personal and professional to coexist on the same, or more likely multiple devices. So what we're seeing out there, and that's what the enterprise is struggling with this, is they're looking for solutions that are flexible enough that can handle everything from I need to distribute the corporate phone directory to I'm doing mobile banking for the CFO of Walmart and they're moving billions of dollars through this application and it's 30% of my corporate revenues. This can't go wrong. So wide variety, right? And here particularly as well, you see a lot around data security with government. You know, that's now you're starting to talk some security requirements.
The way I look at it is that's the whole point of mobile apps, is you narrow down the dashboard. For example, you know, I log on to my AT&T wireless account on the web. I get, you know, whatever 100 things I could do with it, but I pull out my mobile phone, I go into my AT&T account, guess what? I can only do like 5 things. So it narrowed down the data requirement and access. And that, to me, that's the whole point of the mobile app, is to give you that, you know, kind of a centric purpose, so that you're not in there trying to do everything.
Okay. One more question?
Yes, talking about the distinction between consumer and enterprise. I know we saw a demo earlier on of our enterprise app with approvals of vacations and all. It was a very game-ish, you know, millennial-focused, as the person said, user interface. Do you see that as acceptable in the enterprise, or do people want that formal, old-style, Siebel-ish, you know, UI?
Nobody liked the Siebel UI. So, if you go back to, hopefully nobody from Siebel's here, or at least on the UI team from Siebel. You go back to what I was saying earlier in my presentation. So you have the Siebel UI, or you have the desktop application or the web application already. So if you're going to invest the R&D dollars into a mobile experience, you better make the experience worthwhile in using it. So the enterprise is open to and willing and expecting, probably is the best word, that experience to be very similar to their kayak.com or their Angry Birds. I don't know if they're going to flick around expense reports, but that might be it's interesting. Nobody takes that. But they're expecting that. That's what they've learned on these devices, and to have that experience while they're doing work, I think would be a powerful thing. And I think that's what I meant earlier about take the business problem that you're trying to solve and consumerize it.
Yeah, can I add something to an answer to your question? So I work with Alan at Boxstone. We do a lot of work with Apple, and the Apple design engineers would tell you a great reference app for an enterprise application is the Roam BI app. So if you haven't seen that, download it. It's a really good enterprise interface. It's basically a data analysis application, but if you're looking for design cues on building an enterprise app, the Apple guys themselves say, the Apple designers who design the iOS operating system, who design the iOS applications, will tell you that Roam BI is a great example of a third party who built the right UI for an enterprise experience while maximizing the iPad UI. So, that makes
Roam.
Yeah, Roam. ROAMBI. Yeah, you can download it from the App Store. It's free. You can play with it. It's a nice user interface.
Somebody could tweet that or post it on the Facebook group. Yorma, do we have to leave? We have a lot of questions.
9 p.m.
Okay, we have until 9 p.m. Okay. More questions out there? Right here.
Yes, well, first let me ask, Hook Mobile,
Yes.
how old is your company?
4 years.
And you said that you work with large companies.
Yes,
Not the small.
well, so I should say with this offering that we have that offers, so the cloud services we offer is we give you access to phone numbers.
Well, my question
Yeah.
was, because you said you don't work, your clients are
We
not
would like to
smaller
work with
companies.
large companies, yes.
Did you just start off that way, or I guess it was kind of like Yermo's question, I was wondering, how did you get to those companies? Did you start small and graduate up?
Yeah, so this is my third company, and my first company, we signed contracts with large mobile carriers when we were 10 people. So I don't think we necessarily have to shy away from going after the whales when you're still small, first of all. Second of all, so what we have done is when there's a popular term called pivot. So every time you do a startup company and things don't work out, you pivot, you change direction, you know. So we have changed direction at Hook Mobile. Initially, we had wanted to be a Facebook mobile API to deliver social media content. That didn't work out. But what we have done then is we pivoted and we find a way to deliver value proposition for large companies, and we'll continue to try that. We only signed one very large company, and we're trying to replicate that process.
There was a good article in Wall Street Journal yesterday or the day before on whether it's better to have fewer customers as a small company or more customers as a smaller company. Their recommendation was fewer. You can do more customer delight then.
Yeah, I'll touch on that a little bit more. So our largest competitor is actually Twilio. So what Twilio does is they provide services to 50,000 developers. And we look at it, we say, well, you know, do we want to do that, or do we just want to go after the very top of the pyramid? So I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying, you know, there are different ways to cut to cut the pie, and you know, a lot of times you want to change the rule of the game rather than follow the rule of the game. So, you know, it's highly situational dependent.
And I'll just add my experiences because I've just gone through this as some of you have done. We have 6,000 customers worldwide, and when I went out to talk to them, you'd think that's an advantage, but they only want to talk about the products they already own from you. And so most of our early customers are people that we've never worked with before that just found out about us. So it's a blessing and a curse to have a happy customer that wants to tell you all their ideas. Okay, other question out there?
You guys that are running like software as a service, what cloud platform are you using? Are you using Google App Engine, or are you on Amazon or Rackspace? And what's your experiences with that?
We're on Amazon.
Amazon.
I think ultimately everybody's on Amazon, but in between us and Amazon, we use Heroku and MongoDB. And the experience has been pretty positive so far. We've seen a few hiccups here and there, but it's par for the course for what you pay out of pocket for the services that you do get offered.
And for us, we run it ourselves, and then we also work with a very large managed service provider business, so we actually partner with HP, IBM, ACS, and Dell, all of which also offers service for us.
We also use Amazon, and we also run our own service.
Why are you asking?
What's that?
Why are you asking?
I'm just curious. I found the scalability of Google App Engine to work for my needs because you don't have to lease a piece of hardware 24 hours a day, and for I guess a small person, you don't want to have to pay for that. Plus
Do you
it
have-
auto scales well.
You have considerations with data with App Engine, with Enterprise.
What's that?
With
Yeah.
App Engine, even it scales really nicely, but you have to take into account the consideration of data, where it's stored with App Engine.
Might be a good tech meetup discussion, how to get your stuff hosted. Because it will be a way for you to differentiate yourself as a new company if you have a cloud offering, right? Might be able to alleviate a lot of concerns that an enterprise would have.
But to carry on that, so just to compare and contrast this startup to my last startup, which was a perpetual license delivered on on-prem software. So the last startup, we took 9 months from nothing to version 1.0, spent a little over 200 grand in hardware, testing hardware, so we could test across the platforms. And not to mention the time and energy for about 15 engineers over those 9 months to build the platform. So that was last time. This time we went from 0 to, I'm looking at my CTO, Andy over there, 0 to GA in less than 6 months, spending about $2,000 in infrastructure. So significant advantage in doing so, and significant acceleration as well.
How much of that was buying iPads?
1,500.
So I was going to ask Rich, someone made a comment earlier about metered data outside of the US, right? Is it fair to say that most of the rest of the world is metered wireless data?
Yes.
Is that coming here?
It's already here. I mean, that's another word for that is tiered pricing, and the carriers just all rolled that out. They can't not afford to do that. It will get more granular over time. They have fairly big intervals right now, but they're going to have to get very granular about it because their voice business is starting to decline, and the margins on that and revenue are going down. So they've got to make that up in two different places. One is messaging, and the other one is data apps, because someone asked about the AT&T platform. I just had to get back to this and try to connect the dots a little bit. You know, the carriers are not very good at anything but providing network. And so I don't really see AT&T or any of the other carriers coming out with any of these major platforms and being a real threat to the rest of the ecosystem, because one, no one's going to really buy from a single carrier, that, especially a large enterprise that goes across all of the carriers anyway. So I don't see that as a threat. So their real focus will be maximizing their network, which will include, especially now, the very fast growing component of it, which is the data network, and some tiered pricing will come, which is metered pricing.
So what does that mean for native app versus HTML5 app?
Well, I think Chris said it before. You're going to have to get pretty clever about how you're going to design your app and put as much on the client in some cases as you can, and make sure that you're not hitting the network every time that you have to go out and get information. And that's where I think the app is going to have an advantage in some of these tiered pricing or metered data rates, because you don't want to be downloading all the time. And if you read the stories about Europe, this is a big issue. The app market is developing differently in Europe because of all this metered pricing. But there are innovations that are coming in that area that's called policy management. It's a very esoteric area. But basically what it will be is the networks will be able to identify who's providing it. For example, Walmart might say, hey, come and download anything on my network. And it knows it's Rich LaBerge. Is that yours? No. Knows it's Rich LaBerge.